What's up, people? Nature Girl 30 here, and this is another mini Q&A. Guys, thank you so much for sending me questions, and I know I haven't been doing a lot of videos lately, but I still appreciate all of your questions. So let's get started with the questions that I have just straight out of YouTube. My first set of questions goes from Shoro Roro Hayoyor. I probably messed that up, but but let's get started with your question. Did Cena bury Owens at Money in the Bank 2015? No, I really don't think he did. Okay, here's the definition of a burial. Pretty much when it comes to a burial, it's like the guy or the opponent, whoever really didn't have a shot in the dark winning, it's going to be a one-sided match. And if the person has either no offense or defense, it actually makes them look bad. But the overall match was very intense, very gritty. It literally put John Cena to pretty much to the edge. It actually was a good match, and it made them both look good. So when the match makes them both look good, it can't be a burial. So no, he did not get buried. And I think the next match they're going to have is going to be at Battleground. So I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to turn out. I'm hoping it's not a back and forth. More than likely, Cena's going to probably win this one. But I'm not doing my predictions yet. Let's move on to your next question. Will he bury Owens again in their next match? And the next match is going to be Battleground. No, I don't really see it happening. I honestly see it. Owens puts on his A game every time he goes out there to face Cena. And Cena has to put his A game on in order to look good. So nobody's going to look bad here. I know everybody wants Owens to win, but what would make Owens a really great heel is if he takes away the U.S. title. So I'm hoping that the U.S. title is actually for grabs. And a lot of you have already called that. My friend Mr. Griffin called that. NJ called that. My friend Freddy called that. Pretty much everybody called the fact that he was going to ask for the U.S. title. And what would make him a great heel is if he actually does take the title from him. But that's something altogether. I really do think that he is not going to be buried in this next match. He's going to really make himself look good as well as Cena look good, because it's going to make Cena look like he has to fight harder. So no, I don't think he's going to be buried at all. If Owens loses, will that make his credibility drop? And will good mic work make some BS excuses? I can't speak for good mic work, but I will say this. It will not make his credibility drop. If he puts on a great match and he really does give Cena a run for his money, that shows that he tried. But honestly, since he beat Cena clean the first time, if he actually does lose at Battleground, it wouldn't make any sense. Like his loss at Money in the Bank didn't make any sense to me. It didn't. It showed that Kevin Owens is a lot stronger than John Cena, even though John Cena can deadlift probably more than 600 pounds. Regardless of that, John Cena has crazy endurance, but he lacks stamina. And not only that, has great upper strength, but not so much lower strength, while Kevin Owens is kind of even. So honestly, Kevin Owens has a one-up when it comes to him strength-wise, because he has both upper and lower body strength. So having him lose this time around is not going to make any sense. But I've already said that before. I don't think his credibility is going to drop. I think it's going to keep him where he is. He's still the NXT title holder unless he loses it in Tokyo. But regardless of that, I will say that his credibility is not going to drop. He's still going to be a great heel, and it's nothing but skies from there. That's my personal opinion. Is Cena a career halter? No, I don't really think that Cena actually has the ability to halt somebody's career. Maybe slow it down, but not halt it. Not completely. Wasn't Raw so much better without Cena last Monday? Raw actually had direction. It has nothing to do with whether or not John Cena's there or not. It's all about the direction towards the pay-per-view and how they're going to promote the pay-per-view, and also switching things up to make things seem more fresh and new. That's what they did this previous week, that previous Raw. It actually was really interesting. And it wasn't because John Cena not being there. It was just the fact they actually had direction leading on up to Money in the Bank, which is what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to use Raw and SmackDown on primetime TV to hype up their next pay-per-view. And they did a good job at doing that. Had nothing to do with whether or not Cena was there or not. I mean, even though, yes, sometimes Raw is slow when he's there, but it wasn't the case this much. It actually was promoting the pay-per-view, which is what they were supposed to do, regardless of whether or not Cena was there or not. But great set of questions, man. My next set of questions comes from Lino Gino. Thoughts on Machine Gun Kelly getting put through a table by Kevin Owens? Actually, I laughed because I knew that Machine Gun. I actually saw the mat. Like, you actually saw the big giant foam mat at the bottom when Kevin Owens body slammed Machine Gun Kelly off. Like, it was a given that Machine Gun Kelly actually expected it, let alone wanted that to happen. So I kind of thought it was funny. I couldn't stop laughing because I saw the foam mat at the bottom of the screen. It's like they didn't do a great job trying to cover it up. But I laughed. I thought it was hilarious. Have you seen E3? Thoughts on Final Fantasy VII Remake coming out? I'm kind of tired of remakes, y'all. I'm all about originality, and it's time to make some original games. We have too many remakes when it comes to movies. We need to actually start making some decent games. And they've had a lot of decent games come out lately, a lot of originals. And actually going back to Final Fantasy VII, which in my humble opinion is starting to become overrated, not because it didn't tell a great story, not because it has one of the most traumatic deaths in video game history. It's the fact that, honestly, it was a great game for its time. It was, but it needs to stay that way. They really need to work on other Final Fantasies, and honestly, the best one that came out since 7 was Final Fantasy X, from what I heard. I love Final Fantasy VIII. It's one of my favorites, even though it's the most underrated. But a lot of people think that Final Fantasy X was one of the best for next gen. So they need to start working on other Final Fantasies instead of going backwards. That's just me. I'm not saying that Final Fantasy was bad. It'll actually give it a bit of an upgrade and a little bit more realistic look like they did with Halo. I don't think it'll be bad, but I think they need to start doing some new stuff. That's just me. And no, I haven't really seen E3 yet, but it's probably going to be phenomenal, and it probably has a lot of great moments, and I think E3's already happened, so yeah, I probably did miss it. When Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out, when is Kingdom Hearts 3 coming out and what year? I really don't know. I have not played Kingdom Hearts. I know that Kingdom Hearts 3 is supposed to be the last. But I really don't know. From what I've heard so far, it's supposed to come out Christmas of this year. They may bump, and then I think they did bump it up to August, like sometime around the summer, late summer. But who knows? They may bump it to 2016. I have no idea. I really don't know. They change their dates all the time. Nothing is set in stone. But I wouldn't be surprised it's on the internet somewhere. Should Final Fantasy VIII be remade? Would you buy it? No. I like Final Fantasy VIII, and honestly, Final Fantasy VIII did look really good on the original PlayStation when it came out. There was nothing wrong with it at all. I mean, yeah, besides the fact they didn't have voice acting, besides the fact that they had characters that didn't look as bad as the characters on Final Fantasy VII. I'm sorry. If without the cutscenes, the characters looked bad. It looked like an Atari game. It looked terrible. Final Fantasy VIII, I have to say, there was an upgrade from what I saw from the previous game before at Final Fantasy VII. The characters actually look great. The movements were very fluid. The cutscenes were phenomenal as usual. It didn't look bad. If it did get remade, it wouldn't really be much of a big deal. It'd be just like watching a big giant cutscene all the time. But honestly, like I said, Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, both great games. Who's the jabroni called Dustin Nunn that sent you question? I don't want to call him a jabroni. He actually does send some very good questions. And if you have a beef with Dustin Nunn, talk to Dustin Nunn. Got no beef with him. But anyway, moving on from there to Justin's side. Your question for me is, thoughts on Selena Gomez? Dude, I don't know what your beef is with Selena Gomez, but I got no beef with her. Thoughts on Caitlyn Jenner? Honestly, I really didn't know it was Bruce until somebody pointed it out to me. But if he chose to be a woman, good for him, I guess. Thoughts on Kim Kardashian? I'm not really a fan of hers. I'm just not. I have no problem with her. I'm just not a fan of Kim Kardashian. You know my thoughts on Maria Menounos. I'm not even gonna get into that. You know my thoughts. Thoughts on NJ Brady. NJ, he's a pretty cool dude. I mean, honestly, I haven't seen a lot of videos lately for the British Fist because I haven't really watched a lot of wrestling videos as of late. I've been kind of busy going back and forth. But NJ really does do a lot of in-depth details in a lot of his reviews. I haven't heard a movie review from him for a while, but his last review on Money in the Bank was actually pretty spot on. And his last Q&A that he did with Daniel was pretty cool. I mean, they're actually pretty funny guys, and NJ definitely is a funny character. He's a pretty funny dude. Thoughts on Freddie Thomas? And no, he is not a pedophile. Please don't call him that. But regardless of that, Freddy's my friend. Like Freddy, that's my boy right there. We pretty much have raw chats every single night. Him and Ricco, and it's fun. Like I absolutely love talking to them on Monday nights. It's fun. Not only do we talk about random stuff during some of the Raws when they're boring, we actually do have the excitement and mark out at the same time on Skype. It's great. Freddie is a really great guy. He really is. And I always have fun talking to him and Ricco. Always. It's always a blast. But great questions, man. Moving on to Brony Loney. Thoughts on the Church of Black People Mass... Okay, look, guys. Okay. Thoughts on the Church of Black People massacre that happened a few days ago in Texas, where a white teenage, where a white teenager killed 9 blacks, including the pastor. It wasn't in Texas. It was actually in South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, where I'm at currently. Not Charleston, but I'm actually in South Carolina, and it really did hit the whole state. And honestly, that's nothing to really joke about. This guy tried to start a race war, but he epically failed, which was something that warmed my heart. You had the families forgiving him, the families of the slain forgiving him. You had the entire community coming together, and he did a horrible job in trying to scare the church off. Because you know what? The church got stronger, and the church actually forgave him as well as everyone else. And you know what? It made the entire state come together as a whole, a state that's been separated for years, come together as a whole. So you may make jokes about that in that kind of way, but it's not funny. It really isn't. It was very heartbreaking to hear that, but I will say that the church has never been stronger, and no one can break the church, not even him. I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay, this is actually going to answer the question for a Nintendo fanboy. Yeah, and I probably did have a different response for this, but yes, that was my first serious intro and outro without mini Q&A, pretty much because of what happened at Charleston. And I wasn't sure exactly what you were talking about at first, but now, yeah, I actually thought you were talking about one of my Q&As before. But no, it was because of the Charleston attacks actually happened 24 hours ago. So that's the reason why I decided just to not do so much of a intro and outro. And yeah, I guess I would say that was one of my most curious, not curious, but serious ones. Mostly because I just wasn't in the mood for it. I actually was pretty down, and I just didn't really want to do another, an intro and outro like I, usually do. I didn't really want to do that, but I actually just wanted to just pay respects for those, the ones that were slain, as well as the fact that I was in I was really sad mood, and I was real heartbroken by it. So yeah, that was my first and ever serious Q&A. Thoughts on Freddie Thomas? Everybody's asking about Freddy. But yeah, I love Freddy. Freddy is an awesome dude. Like, he's the funnest guy I've ever talked to, like, ever. Like, seriously, the most fun. Well, he's one of the funnest, but I always have a blast talking to him. For Monday Night Raws with him and Ricco. And him and Ricco are like two brothers from another mother, seriously. And they make it so much fun. And I enjoy talking to them. I really do. Do you support or against interracial dating? Oh boy, look, with everything that has gone down in this country, especially in this state, I don't want to hear anything else about race. And if anybody asks me, with all due respect, I'm going to ignore you. Like, seriously. And that's not to be mean. It's just, it's been too much race stuff going on in the world. Too much race stuff, bad race stuff. Well, race stuff sometimes is bad anyway. But regardless of that, it's just been too much of it lately. So if anybody asks me about race, I'm going to ignore you and I'm going to move on to your next question. But since I actually read it, I will answer it for you. No, I don't have a problem interracial dating. I dated white guys. I actually dated a white guy. And he didn't look like Buff Bagwell, even though he thought he did. But he had muscles like Buff Bagwell. So I'll just say that. Seriously. But no, I got no beef with it at all. But moving on from there, thoughts on Shenmue 3 coming out. Shenmue has been like a cult classic for years. And I'm interested to see exactly what route they take from it, because it was very innovative for its time. Like, you have never seen a game that reacted to real time. Because honestly, how it worked with the Dreamcast is you always had a clock that you would set, pretty much before you play the game. And once that clock is set, that's how the game will work to that clock. If it was 5 p.m. where you're at, it's going to be 5 p.m. in the game. You would never see something like that. That was the first of its time. But I'm kind of interested to see what direction it goes now, and I wouldn't be surprised it's going to end up being a great game. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Next is from Dustin Nunn. Do you think Chris Benoit's eldest son, David Benoit, should get hired by WWE, or do you think the WWE should make David change his name due to the horrible consequences that happened with his dad, his stepmom, and his little half brother? Because I had mixed feelings about this. Honestly, it's a shame that no matter where he goes, people are going to be reminded of what happened with his dad and everything. Maybe it's a shame he may have to change his name if he stays in wrestling, because I know that WWE, as PG as they are, don't want to have any affiliation with it. So the only way it would work is if they change his name. It would break my heart if they did, but that's what he would have to do, unfortunately. He would have to change his name in order to work in that business and work in that company. They'll probably have to find something catchy for him to be, but it's sad. It really is. But that's just how it is. But I don't think that he should be marred because of what his dad did. He should be able to do what he loves for as long as he wants to do it. But unfortunately, changes may have to be made. But moving on to my final set of questions coming from Music Harmony. Thoughts on that lemon Adam Rose? Do you think he should have stayed as Leo Kruger? Adam Rose is somewhat of a fun character. I loved him when he first came out. Leo Kruger was a pretty serious cat when he was in FCW or NXT now. But now that he has the whole Adam Rose gimmick, it's going to be hard to go back to being Leo Kruger. And now that he doesn't have the Exotic Express following him everywhere, maybe he can be taken a little bit seriously. But now he has a chick on his arm, so that won't be happening anytime soon. But yeah, I got no beef with the dude. But I'm kind of happy that he no longer has the Exotic Express, because that gimmick was swallowing him. It was swallowing him up whole. Seriously, it was. That gimmick was bigger than he was. But now he has Rosa Mendez on his arm. Yeah, we'll see where it goes from there. Your next question for me is, you have any guns at home? No, I don't have any guns. I'm not much of a gun person. I'm more of a sword person. I just like swords. That's just me. I like the craftsmanship of swords, but I'm not so much of a gun person, even though my friend, one of my dearest friends actually wants me to get one, but I'm just not. I'm not that kind of person. Thoughts on, my thoughts on Maria Menounos, and I'm not gonna even talk about her. Thoughts on Maria Kanellis? I know who Maria Kanellis is. She used to be Maria. I thought she was cool back in the day. She was the only chick that pretty much had everything natural, and she wanted to stay natural, instead of having enhancements like everybody else at the time. But I had a lot of respect for her until she went to Twitter and started blasting people. And then you pretty much had a Facebook war and a Twitter war between her and Alex Riley. And yeah, it got pretty bad. But honestly, all I can say is that more power to her at ROH. That's all I have to say about that. Um, Thoughts on Rico Hill and Freddie Thomas, and stop calling them pedophiles. They're not. But anyway, like I said before, I love those two. I really do. I love Rico and I love Freddie. I absolutely enjoy talking to them on Monday nights. They make Monday nights fun and they make it worthwhile until that time comes when you just want to get on Skype and just chat with them. They're really great guys. They really are. So lay off of them and stop calling them that, because they're not. But anyway, moving on from there. Oh, and I guess your final question for me is about Mr. Griffin. If you want to know anything about Mr. Griffin, especially his age, ask him, because I cannot answer that for you. But if you have any questions about him, ask him. And guys, this is another mini Q&A. So if you have any questions for me, and for me only, by all means, send them to me via YouTube or on Twitter at RKH30, hashtag NatureGirl Q&A. It's NatureGirl30 signing off. Peace out, guys. Later.